Welcome to Some Kind of Game, the podcast that explores the questions that nobody asked about video games, but maybe, just maybe, you wish somebody asked you these questions. I'm Jay,
And I'm Justin.
and today we're going to sit down and ask those non essential questions. Today we're going to be discussing what games we have the most hours in, but first, how are you doing, Justin?
I'm doing all right. I feel like this is the weird in between part of the year where I'm waiting for other things to come out. So I've been playing a lot of TFT, Teamfight Tactics, and I hit my desired rank, and I don't want to go any further. I hit
Okay.
Master, which is like two off from the
Sheesh.
top, and it's not that hard to hit Master. But looking at like hitting the like other ranks, it just requires like one game of TFT takes 40 minutes, and that is a lot of time. And so I've been spending the last 2 weeks doing nothing but playing TFT, really. So
Mm.
I'm trying to take a break and look forward to the other set that's coming out for TFT. And um, then there's just a bunch of holidays. There's a bunch of holidays coming up. Thanksgiving's coming up. Christmas is coming up. So there's a bit of traveling that's going on. So digging in for that. But doing well overall. How about you, Jay?
Yeah, doing pretty good. Me and my girlfriend started playing Terraria again, and
Nice.
I started doing some building and also started progressing in my Calamity playthrough again. Uh, I just beat Plantera, and then I did some of the events like Moon, Pumpkin King, and Eclipse. And so, made some upgrades. I also beat Golem, but I was supposed to beat a couple bosses in between. But because I'm so used to like Plantera than Golem,
Uh,
I just went straight into it and I was able to beat it with suboptimal gear.
Sheesh.
Sheesh, you know how it did. And then besides that, League got their preseason patch, so I'll
Is it
probably be playing.
spicy?
No, not really. So the thing I like is Tank's got some new items. So
Okay.
hopefully tanky champions are a little more viable because I like tanky champions. I'll be honest with you, I got a little bit of slow reactions when it comes to League, but I blame it on a mixture of ping and me
You're
playing
too old, Jay.
ADC.
You're too old.
Nah, I ain't too old, but
You're too
you know
old.
it's nice to have like I didn't explode in a second when I'm playing a tank kind of deal.
Uh,
And then ARAM also got some pretty big updates, and now they have like hex gates. So like they made it so like you can scrap more, as well as uh, they like are running a clash tournament, and they like also made significant like balance changes to certain champions, like energy champions, and added tenacity to certain champions. So, and for those who don't know
Nice,
what
nice.
tenacity is, it's just when like a champion uses a crowd control move like stunning you, you get 20% of that stun like reduced. So if it was, 10 seconds, it'd be 8 seconds then,
Hmm.
which there are no 10-second stun. Don't worry. That'd be too long, but yeah, it's an easy example. But yeah, uh, Justin, we are gamers, right? The whole podcast is about gaming. Like we definitely have some games that like we've dumped hours and hours into. So, I'd love a few of yours.
Yeah, for better for worse. So as far as I know, because there could have been games on other older consoles that I have more playtime in that I'm just like I've just blocked out from memory, but I kind of doubt it. And so these are games that from our memory and from numbers that we could source that we know to be some of our top most favorite games or top most played games. And so the most played one, clocking in at 1,000 hour plus, is actually League of Legends, a game that I don't really play anymore, and that's probably why. I think 1,000 hours in anything is a very long time sink, and at some point, you have to evaluate if you're still enjoying it and if there's like more in the tank for you or you're kind of done. And so, yeah, that's kind of why I haven't played League of Legends. Mostly just spending a lot of dead hours with friends, just like being like, "Hey, are you on?" and just like playing a game, playing a ton of just normals and messing around. And so um, it was a fun way to spend time with friends, but I don't really see as much value in League of Legends for that in that reason anymore. So I don't really play it as much. Next one is a game that I've technically played twice, Persona 5. I played the original on PS3, and one playthrough took like 120 hours. And so I'm recently playing through the definitive edition, which is Persona 5 Royal, and it's the base game, and they've made a ton of revisions, story changes, and added additional content. And so I've already dumped 100 hours into that. So I'm like 220 hours ish, maybe. And so there's that. TFT. I don't think this is an order for me, by the way, because I feel like some others in the list I have more hours in. TFT. Teamfight Tactics is also in the list. I've just played, like I said, one game costs takes like 40 minutes, and it took me 200 games to get to master this set, and I think it took 200 games last time. And so you can, I think an average game will take like 40 minutes, so you can kind of do the math. It's like at least 200 plus hours. Another one is Guilty Gear Strive, fighting game. If you find a fighting game that clicks, you can definitely just sit in training mode and just grind and like, or go online and play the ranked mode for whatever game you're playing and just grind like that and learn the game. So that's a game that I've enjoyed a lot and have played quite a bit. I'm probably gonna keep still playing. And then so Steam for me says about like 153 hours, and then the last one on the list, but not the least in terms of hours, is Stardew Valley. I have that at 300 hours, but I also think I lent my Steam account to a friend who played Stardew Valley for like a ton. So I think at least 200 of those hours are on me. I definitely had like one or two solo runs, and then I played with friends. I was very excited when co-op came out for Stardew Valley. But yeah, those are our top five most played games.
Nice. And I just did the math, and it's about 133 hours for 200 games if they all last about 40 minutes.
Okay, so it's like
Um,
266.
uh,
Yeah,
um, but yeah, for me, um, in my top five, so Path of Exile sits at the top. Probably like just number wise, like because it's calculated on Steam, it sits at the top. But I probably have more hours in when I talk about the next two. But Path of Exile, I have a 1,300 hours. Um, I've been playing for maybe 4 or 5 years, and to be fair, like I've probably have over 200-300 hours AFK just sitting in my hideout because I go and do something and I leave it on, or
it's a lot
whatever
of
reason.
electricity.
Yeah, 100%. But you do what you got to do to get your trades. Got to sell your items, dude. Um, MapleStory, I have easily over 1K hours, like no doubt about it. But uh, you know, I played when one there wasn't Steam. That was like when I played the most vanilla, and then I'm counting my private server experiences as part of my MapleStory because it's the same game, just up patches down, right?
Yeah,
And yeah, so I would say I'm easily over 1K. And then Pokemon games, I'm way, way, way over 1K, but I couldn't give you a number because each run, is different. And I've played through most of the main series games, and I would say the main series games probably take me anywhere around 30 to 40 hours. And there's already over, 8 generations. And considering I've played Emerald a few times, like, and the remakes, um, just the base games alone, you're looking at like over 200 plus hours. And then I've played this game called Pokemon Light Platinum, and my end time was 120 hours played. And that was one ROM hack, and I've played over like 30 ROM hacks. So,
it's
like
a
to
big number,
completion. Yeah. So, uh, I'm guessing easily over 1K hours.
right?
Uh, Terraria sitting at about 300, but this is including Tmod Loader. Uh, because I I play mostly modded now, so I'm still racking up the hours on Terraria. And then for League, um, so there is a tool that like lets you know, like, hey, like this is how many hours of League you have, but it's ranked League, not all the League. So it said I had 150 hours, but then I went into the client and you're allowed to see like how many hours you've played like per season. And this season alone, I had 200 plus hours in normal games. Um, so yeah, I'm clocking it at over about 350 hours, but
Yeah,
those
give
are
or
my top
take
five.
like a few hundred maybe.
Yeah. Give or take a few hundred, but to be fair, that's for my Pokemon and MapleStory games as well.
Sure.
Path of Exile is the only one I have like an accurate indication of.
Uh, I kind of want to give some time to talk about our runner-ups because I think they like kind of go off the beaten path for some of the games that we might play. So
Hmm.
my runner-up was Bloons Tower Defense 6, and that clocked in at like the numbers are a bit facetious. I think my Steam says like 70 hours, but I played mostly on mobile, so it's like 70 plus probably like 100 hours, so maybe like 150, 170 hours. And that game was just like so smart about drip feeding you like rewards for playing and like
Hmm.
um, gating things behind playing just enough so that like it's not taxing or grinding, but you do feel like you beat something. It's not impossible to beat something, and then they will like
Hmm.
they'll drip feed you an award, and so that was really fun. I like gifted that game to like 10 people, and I like told them all that I injected balloons into my veins. So that was like a really I had some fond memories with balloons, and
Hmm.
then definitely a an odd one is NBA 2K11. From what I remember, I had about 100 hours on this on the Xbox 360. Probably like this must have been a game I played like 10 years ago, 10 plus years ago, and the reason for that was they had a my player mode, and you
Hmm.
could build your own player. They had you could like tweak it, but I just went with a default guy, and then you basically role played as an NBA. There was some like story to sort of like shunt you into professional basketball. Like you get to do like two college games and then play professional, and it was like a number go up sort of thing where like you start as like this nobody player, and then like completely improbable you can like because it's a video game you can just have like insane like
Yeah.
numbers and like play game have really impressive games. And something I liked is that they had the announcers could pronounce your name. So if your name was like not too foreign for the developers, they would pronounce it. So like hearing the announcers say like Justin brings up the ball, or you could put a nickname. And so you had preset nicknames. And my preset nickname was Garbage Man, and hearing the announcer hype up Garbage Man was very satisfying. So that was like like brain dead, like not like nothing going on in my mind, just like grinding that game. Numbers go up, trying to like have a defeatless season. But that game could also be very frustrating at sometimes. But yeah, those are my runner ups for my most played games.
Nice. I remember I loved NBA 2K like when they had a blacktop game mode
Yeah.
where it was like a 1v1, and I actually liked playing Drake because he was super short but he could shoot threes like crazy.
The
Um
celebrities have amazing stats. I'm sure they're real to life. I'm sure Drake actually is a godlike player and could dominate in the NBA if he wasn't busy making house music for his latest album.
Yeah. And then for my runner up, I only got one, but it's Slay the Spire. So it was like the first roguelike I really got into. I mean, I've
Good
probably
game.
played some before. It really is. And it's just so rewarding to like build a good deck, get that good card, and like, being flexible. I think it reminds me a lot of TFT, in the sense of like, it rewards flexibility
Hmm.
quite a bit, and then it also requires a little bit of RNG and luck to go your way. And then it's like also it like ramps up difficulty, right? Like, but like it starts off hard and then it ramps up the difficulty, and it's like it might get a little bit easier for you, but then it keeps getting harder and harder. And yeah, so I never beat A20, which is uh, the hardest difficulty. I only got up to like A12 or A14, and then I was like, all right, well, I'm tired of playing this game, kind of deal. But there were mods, and
I
there
was
was
gonna
this
say,
yeah, there was this Yu-Gi-Oh mod that had built-in decks, and then it like had a pool of cards per archetype,
uh,
and it would randomly match, or you could decide actually whether you wanted to in the configurations the pool of cards that came with the deck, and then it pulled two random ones. Uh, uh Sorry, actually it pulled one random one because I think the the choice from cards was much bigger,
mhm,
um, and so it only pulled from one random like other archetype, and you'd get cards, and then there's also like a base like oh you could always pull these cards when you and for those who haven't played Slay the Spire, basically, like, uh, it's like a dungeon crawler, and like, there's different acts, and you like go up like a tower, imagine, and like there's different pathways you can take, and if you beat like a monster, you're allowed to pick a card at the end to add to your deck or skip.
right.
Um, and so, like the part where you're able to add the cards, like it would pull from like different archetypes, and man, like people went
So,
crazy with
so
that
was
just as
it?
well.
Did they make it Yu-Gi-Oh themed?
Yeah, so they were actual cards from the Yu-Gi-Oh.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was so cool,
That's
and then
sick.
you even got to fight Kaiba and Yugi as like elite monsters,
Okay.
and then there was also like custom boss woods that I ended up adding and stuff just to add variety to my runs. But now that I'm talking about it, I feel like I should play again. Maybe do
Yeah, I
a
feel
run or two.
like I was like, I don't know if you tapped into the mods properly, Jay. It seems completely up your alley.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like now that I'm talking about it, it's very much like Terraria. It's like it adds so much if you want to play with
Right.
mods. Um, but you know, going off of Slay the Spire, like me going into like, it's the first roguelike I really played, and that's like sort of why and like, that genre is very interesting. It's very puzzle-like sometimes, specifically for Slay the Spire for building a deck. What separated these games for you? Like why did you dump in, so many hours to League, TFT, Guilty Gear?
Yeah. So, well, it's been too long on each since there's five games that we picked out as kind of like our the most played games.
Hmm.
But we've spoken about it before. League of Legends, I think, is for better or for worse is a very accessible game to play with friends, and I think it's accessible in terms of it doesn't require a strong PC to play. It's completely free to play. It's pretty easy to get five people on
Hmm.
and play together.
I do have a
And
question.
yeah,
Because you said five people, multiplayer games are pretty big. I think we talked about it, but do you think like five people is the right amount of people in a multiplayer game? That's like a consistent one, right? Because League, like you have 1,000 hours, and I know a lot of people actually have a lot of hours in League. It's a very popular game. Like, is it is it easy to consistently get a five, and that's why five is a
I
good
think
number? Or do you think it would have
I
been
think
good regardless?
4 to 5 is like the magic number we've seen.
Mhm.
I because you want to be able to accommodate bigger groups,
Yeah,
but and the good part about League is that there's modes if you don't have five friends, but you have like you only have two friends available or just one friend.
yeah.
And five, I think, is the magic number that we've seen. 5 or 4 is a magic number we've seen in a lot of instances. And so I feel like it's rare that you have six people, but that's my personal anecdote. I don't know what it's like for other people,
Mhm.
but kind of just like observationally, I feel like 4 to 5 is the magic number for when you're trying to support like the bigger groups, and then there's options that go beyond that are much rare.
Yeah.
Rarely do you have something that's like fit for six. Usually, like explodes up to like much bigger numbers,
Mhm.
or you go into like private games or things like that. But yeah, League of Legends for me hit that spot where it was like I don't think it's an accessible game in terms of learning to play because you either need a friend to show you how to play or you it's pretty painful if you don't like losing you're just going to lose because there's not really a good way to learn without going to a friend or an external guide. Persona 5, I'm a huge Persona fan. There's it's just something about like that virtual tourism and it's like
Mm.
you're just like going out, hanging out different places, living your best life, becoming smarter, hanging out with friends. That part is really addicting to me. And then like the systems feed into each other really well, like all the different parts of the game into the dungeon crawler. The social sim feeds into the dungeon crawler. Dungeon crawler will feed back into the social sim, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think I'll play it. I feel like I'm very doubtful that I'll play it ever again. I don't think I want to do like a third run, but
But if
um,
Persona 6 came out, you'd play that.
I would play Persona 6 because that should be a different game. And then,
I do have a question about the Personas
yeah,
because there's five, so I'm assuming there's four, three, two, one. I've never played the
sure,
Persona series
sure, sure.
really. Um, are they all like the same Z? Like how Pokemon, like doesn't matter what generation it is, it's very samey in terms of like gameplay and like loop. Um,
They
it's
do a lot to differentiate each other. There's a big break between like one and two was very much the games are trying to figure out what they're doing, and most people don't play that. One and two are not part of like the popular part of Persona. Three was when there's like, and the big reason is there's not really a social sim aspect of that.
okay.
Three is when they like hit that, and then so three, four, and five are usually like grouped together. Like if you like any one of those, you can play any of the other two in that trio, and you'll probably have a good time. One and two
Okay.
is kind of for more hardcore RPG fans. And then to your second question about um, differences in terms of like, does it experience Pokemon syndrome of being the same package each time?
Yep.
Um, the story and characters are so radically different that it's like hard to say that. Um, I think I think there are enough differences in that like it definitely does more than Pokemon does between iterations.
Uh-huh.
But if you boil it down, it is like social sim dungeon crawler each time. But that's just kind of the genre. I think it does enough in like thematically changing things. Like even the UI looks different every single time.
Yeah.
With Persona 5 going really bonkers with how stylized they made the UI. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And so I talk a lot about TFT. I'll try not to talk a lot about TFT right now. But it's an interesting game because you can learn a lot just without playing, um, and that part is very satisfying. I don't know what I don't know what it is. I think it's like a game that's relatively easy to climb in terms of a competitive game, and it's not very demanding. You don't really need high APM or muscle memory to play this game. It's all about learning how to play it, and then also
I think
like there's an experiential part of it when you play yourself when it's actually outside of like learning when you're there actually playing there's a ton of experience that you learn where it's like, oh, how do I play out of this spot, what should I take, what are my wins, what are my outs, and I think for me it's just the learning has been so organic. That's why I've enjoyed playing this game, and it's not like a direct competitive like 1v1 all the time, so it's not as exhausting. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say TFT has like a like not a perfect, but like very close to a perfect climbing, like ranked scene in my or not ranked scene, but like ranked uh like climb in my
Mhm.
opinion because it's based on you know the issue with League of Legends as a game for ranking is you have to rely on your teammates, and it's also very easy to demote because you have to rely on teammates. Whereas TFT, you climb by yourself, and you don't lose LP just by getting, you know, or you only lose LP if you get bottom four. If you get top four, you gain LP, and top four based on your own performance, I feel like is more consistent, as well as uh, I feel like the climb out of at least me playing the double up and like climbing that ladder, not
Sure.
necessarily like the actual TFT ladder, it feels like the curve is it feels rewarding, and you also can't demote out of your bottom tier of right now. So I'm not punished if I have a streak of bad games, um, as I'm learning the game, right? But it's also very easy to climb out of these, uh, uh, you know, elos, as well as it doesn't feel like you can get griefed in this game, Whereas in League, like your bot, you get a bot on your team, which I don't know if there's bots in TFT. There probably are, but not as not as prevalent to my knowledge. But if you get a
Sure.
bot in your game, you're screwed in League, right? Like you just can't win. Like it is almost impossible to win a 4v5 game unless the other team is chooses to
So
be.
so the one thing about Teamfight Tactics that I think a lot of people who play it will like complain about is there's a big RNG component, and the more skilled you are, the less it becomes about RNG, right? Because it's you have experience to play out of it, but when you're learning, it could be like you just roll like you just get like 5 items that you can't use in a row that you're not familiar with like how to use, and then you'll lose like the pain. I will say the pain point about TFT is like if you get a bad spot that you don't know how to play out of, then you will just like go bottom four immediately, and then you'll lose a lot of LP. And
Mhm.
it takes a lot of games to get back that LP because you will lose more than what you'll gain out of like if you get like out of one loss, and it takes like one game of 40 minutes to like get one chunk back. So if it takes like 2 to 3 games to climb back, then if you got screwed out of RNG or you made just one bad decision, then it's um, 2 hours to get back to where you were before, which can be very draining. But
Yeah,
every game has that. Every game has its pitfalls. But I do agree with the sentiment that like it is like an enjoyable game to climb in that regard. And then real quick, Guilty Gear Strive. Guilty Gear Strive is a pretty accessible fighting game compared to other fighting games. I would say it's not like too. It's not very. It's not extremely dumbed down. I will say. I think it's they definitely stripped back some mechanics compared to previous entries in the Guilty Gear series. Guilty Gear Strive is the latest out of many Guilty Gear entries,
yeah,
and visually it's very impressive. Every time I boot up that game, I'm like, man, this game looks sick. And it has really good net play, which can't be said about all fighting games. I think the I think the ranked like I think the lobby system is annoying, but when you're in game, it feels really good to play online. And then Stardew Valley is like a chill, relaxing game that you can just play by yourself and like progress at your own pace. And so um, I don't think anything. There are very few things that are as polished and as accessible and as gripping as Stardew Valley, and it doesn't feel like overwhelming or oppressive. It's a very natural. Has a very natural hook into like getting you into the game, and then like showing you ways to progress at your own pace. So yeah, how about you, Jay?
yeah. So for Path of Exile, I mean, it's like the perfect game to just turn off my brain and like fight monsters, and then I would
You,
say
you say
Steam has
that, but then when I listen to you explain the skill tree, I just like I'm like, how is this man doing calculus right now? There's so
no.
much going
So
on in the skill tree.
So Steam calculates the hours in game. I would say I've spent close to 500 hours plus out of game, like watching YouTube videos. And then there's a thing called Path of Building that like you can build your character out before you like actually
The
play it.
secret
So
tech, I see.
yeah. Like basically people say like to play Path of Exile properly, you need at least a minimum of like three third party programs. And then most people have about 3 to 5. So, you know, uh it like scratches that itch of like being complex enough. uh so I don't know, I gave it 3 attempts before I actually got into it, and so for me it's like the game that's complex enough outside of game, and the gameplay is not uh like you know, I'm not really tested on gameplay. Like the bosses are pretty gameplay heavy. Like, oh, like you need to dodge and you need to know what's happening. But for like a majority of the game, it's like great to just turn off your mind, get gear, get stronger, get currency, like just sort of progress your character. And it gives you that sense pretty like enough. I would say like they they've like fallen off a little bit, but you know, they recently, I think, might make a comeback. We'll see. The next expansion is coming out December 14th, I think. Uh, December 14th, December 8th, because
Okay.
they announce on December 1st, and then it comes out a week later. So December 8th is when the new league launches. For MapleStory, I mean, it just has nostalgia. Plus, I have cousins who played it, and so we would play together. And you know, it was like my first MMO that I played. Like became that second job kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I also loved playing private servers. Met a lot of people through them, and like just sort of enjoyed like that niche community while
You
playing
probably
MapleStory.
killed millions of mushrooms.
Oh, dude, more than millions, easily trillions.
Jesus.
No. But yeah, and then Pokemon games again, nostalgia, but I think the reason I've dumped over 1,000 hours, like I would say, without the modded versions of the game, so the fan games and the ROM hacks, I would uh, probably be around 300 to 400, maybe a little bit less. Um, but with them, like these people, you know, know how to like capture story, make the game harder so it doesn't feel all the same,
Uh,
and then uh honestly, if Digimon just had a better like better games, it might be Digimon here, because the thing I think that I hate about Pokemon is it feels like the progression of your Pokemon are all stacked for almost all the Pokemon into that first 40 levels. And then you have 60 where it's just non existent for
uh,
99 plus percent of the Pokemon. And, you know, with Digimon, you get that progression because there's up to 5 to 6, Digimon upgrades you go through. It's like baby
yeah.
form, rookie, champion, ultimate, mega, and then some have Jogris or DNA digivolutions,
Yeah,
right?
I think we could do a whole episode on Digimon games because I went down the rabbit hole to be like, hey, what games are there to play? Digimon's always been the underdog series.
Yeah.
Compared to Pokemon, and so yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, what's there to play as a Digimon fan, and I think they've been way more varied than Pokemon has because they never found like the one formula that works. I think for Digimon games, but
I
yeah,
do
I think
wonder.
Digimon is still sick as a series.
I agree that too, but I wonder because how we talked in our previous episode. So if anybody's a constant listener, we talked about how Pokemon games, like they Game Freak like keeps the formula concrete, never diverges. They had Pokemon Arceus, which was way, in my opinion, like out there, but it wasn't even that out there for like what they could do. But I wonder how Digimon would have ended up if they stuck to a single formula of hey, progression. You can their gimmick was you could de-digivolve, and then that would like be part of like the grinding to get back up. But I wonder
Yeah,
if they stuck to a formula, like would they have seen success, or was the variation like you said, maybe they just never hit the nail on the head. But that's maybe for another day. Um, Terraria, I think the gameplay mechanic as well as Terraria hits that beauty spot for me. Like it's the art is so
this
simple,
is
but
Jay and his designer mind working again.
it really is.
The
It really
creations I
is.
make are the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Dude, it really like me and my girlfriend played and I made a cherry blossom tree and a little hobbit house
Ooh,
underneath and a little cherry
okay.
blossom area. Yeah. So definitely like Terraria hits that like it's super simple to build and it really makes it easy. Whereas like, some games like Sims and stuff, like it's a little bit harder to get into. Terraria does that, and plus it has an RPG aspect to where I get bored of building. I can go fight monsters, bosses, and like feel
Uh,
rewarded for gameplay. Um, I think it maybe the reason I like it so much is it has that same Path of Exile feel. Like when I don't want to mindlessly grind, I can go do bosses that require you know gameplay. Whereas Terraria has that, and if I'm tired of gameplay, I can go do uh, you know, um, the beautifying of my house, building NPCs and sort of
Right.
doing all of that. And then
Everything
League of
is
Legends,
just everything is just Path of Exile for you.
yeah, and then League of Legends. Honestly, the only reason I got into it was with friends, and I think the only reason I stay is because of friends. I did get into the pro scene, so I do like it a little more now, and I see the merit in the gameplay, and I do like. I feel like I've gotten much better because I'm better than some of our friends now that
Oh my gosh.
have played
Whoa.
before me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shots
But
fired.
hell yeah. But honestly, like if my friends didn't play, I probably wouldn't play at all.
I think it like I think video games for a lot of people fit this social part for friends in that it's an excuse to hang out. It's a little bit less about the video games. It's just like to have something
Yeah, I
to
agree.
bring people together to like chat over, and like you can like point out things that are happening in game, until somebody gets tilted or like your like random Ramus is like running it down mid and everyone's having a bad time and wants to go home. But yeah.
And do you quickly want to tell our viewers, because I think I know, but what games you still play from your top five, if any?
Yeah. So Persona 5 has a playthrough in progress right now. I'm hoping to like finish that and like not touch the game ever again. Because
Yeah.
I do love the series and I have a lot of attachment to it, but I think it's like it's growing a little long in the teeth. I think. But TFT I will probably be playing ongoingly for a while. They replaced the sets. They replaced the units with new sets every few months or so, and it's a really fun game to watch and learn and play. And Guilty Gear Strive, it's I am a fighting game enjoyer, and Guilty Gear Strive was like what um, broke open the door for me to understand fighting games, and so I had like a personal goal for myself to hit like a rank in there, and I've had it for a while, so I always try to like revisit whenever things free up to try to play that. And I do want to play Stardew Valley. I'm not playing it right now,
Mhm.
but there's been a ton of new content since I've last played. So at some point down the line, I'm hoping to get back into it.
Hey, they also got mods, so if you want to add some
That's too much for
story.
me. That's too much for me. I can't play that. I can't play that much.
Makes sense, makes sense. Um, And then for myself, Path of Exile is just like TFT, like every three they have like a 3 to 4 month life cycle. I haven't played it in 2.5+ months, so I didn't really play this league. So hopefully next league is better and I can get back into it. MapleStory, private servers exist. I started playing one recently, but we'll see if I stick to it. I probably won't play the base game ever again because it feels like there's too much content bloat, and it just feels like I'll never catch up, and I don't like feeling
Yeah.
that way in MMOs. Um, Pokemon games, I'll always be
Are
playing
you getting
Pokemon.
Scarlet and Violet?
I'm going to wait for reviews before I get it,
Okay.
because I realize like I don't want to continue supporting Game Freak if they keep making like subpar games, and I'd really like you know how they have gimmicks and they always
Yeah.
change these gimmicks. I didn't like the gimmick this time around, and so I'll see if the gimmick's any good before I purchase it. I know it came out today, right? Um,
I think it will come out tomorrow.
okay, then streamers got the early game or whatever because I know some people were
Yeah,
streaming
some
it.
people will like time hop. They'll just like they'll buy it in a different region because some time zones get it by now, sort of
Okay,
like technically. So that's probably what they did.
are you planning on getting it?
I don't know. I don't think like if I had a close friend who was playing it, I think I would play it because that like idea of collecting your Pokédex has been like a dream I've like chased. Like
Yeah,
Um, I've always wanted to live the ideal life of like, oh, your close friends like get one Pokemon and then you trade. And I've never
yeah.
completed Pokédex. That's kind of like a bucket list item. But at the same time, nothing draws it me to the new Pokemon game on my own. So probably not. It depends.
After I do my review of it, or not do my review, but after I read reviews,
Research.
there is apparently there's a multiplayer function that they were going to add where you can
I
see
heard
people on
that.
the
Yeah.
overworld. So I am down to run it with you, and maybe we can do a playthrough together. I think that'd be fun. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Maybe
yeah, yeah. And so Terraria, I mean, I think it speaks for itself. I mean, it has it,
it's a yes.
it's yeah, it's like a top 5, top 10 selling game of all time. There's a reason for that. It's like it hits an itch. It's an RPG. It's a builder game. So really good game. I recommend it, and I do still play. And then for League of Legends, I still play whenever friends want to play. I
Friends
don't really play
ass.
by myself. Uh,
So we are cutting close to time, so let's speed run a few of our next segments. Jay, how you feeling about that?
yeah, yeah. Let's maybe try to stick to top three for the next questions, and then
Yeah. So
certain ones less.
for this one, we have for just one game. If you could change one thing about one of the games you play, what would it be?
Do you have something in mind? Because
I do, yeah. So
okay, yeah.
I alluded to it. Guilty Gear Strive, when you're playing online, when you're in game, it's awesome. When you're playing, it's awesome. But
Uh-huh.
there's so much friction getting into a game. There are a lot of things that will boot you out of a game. You would think that you could just play best of three each time, and then the match would move on. But you could get promoted within the best of three. So let's say like I lose my first match within the best of three, it'll say, "Hey, you got demoted," and then it'll end the best of three, and then it'll like be like, you have to go through all these menus to get back into the
Hmm.
lobby to play. It's so annoying because you're doing that so many times while you're playing, and you really just want to play the game. So that's what it'd be for me.
Okay, that makes sense. I probably so I think I mildly alluded to mine, but I feel like this would change the gameplay too much where it might not be worth it, which is
Uh,
I wish Pokemon had a better progression system after 36. Like it feels like all your Pokemon really get are stats and like, you know, it's just 70 or 60 levels of just getting levels and it it's harder and harder and harder to level, which is why I found it so weird. I felt like you know, if anything, like if you're gonna have three evolutions only, like at least make like Charizard level 50, and like that's how I feel personally. Um, and yeah, it feels like Pokemon games
that's a
end
fair
too
point.
early. Like what's the point of having 100 level cap if all you're done with the game when your Pokemons are all level 50? But that, but the other thing I might like I would want to change, but this is like a massive change is I wish they would wipe MapleStory like all the way back to version 83.
That's a
Um,
big change.
yeah. And so obviously that's one thing, but the one thing is to change the version back to 83.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's like my stretch one. Um, for my original one would be Pokemon have better progression. So like there maybe would be like extra evolutions in the game. But
Okay.
yeah.
So, how about this next segment? How much money have you spent on your most played games? So, for games I enjoy, that I'll go first. So, for games I enjoy that are live service that had battle passes, I tend to enjoy them. So, I have partaken in a few of the TFT battle passes, and I've enjoyed those. Persona 5, I've technically bought twice, so I've spent $120 on like that one game, and then the big spender is League Skins, which is or League of Legends just in general, which I'm pretty sure just goes down to skins, buying for myself and gifting to others. And you can look that up online. And I was told it was 150 dollars essentially spent on League, and it's a lot easier to justify purchase when you're like, hey, I'll spend like $10 for my home. Like, why not? So
Yeah.
that's pretty smart of League.
And then for myself, uh, PoE is my top, or no, not my top, but like 240. And it's just for like stash tab space and mainly like skins, like League, of different skills and
I see why
stuff.
you have 1,000 hours. You spent 240. You got to keep playing.
Yeah, exactly. And then MapleStory, I probably spent 100-ish when I used to buy like Nexon cards, and it used to be pretty pay to win.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then for the entire Pokemon series, so including the games, if you remove even the game costs, I'm probably still at 300 plus because I count like Pokemon cards and like the Pokemon accessories that I had. Like when I went to Korea, I even bought like a little Pokemon keychain to put on top on my backpack. So I've spent probably easily 500 plus on the Pokemon series. Um, so moving on to the next one. If you had to get rid of one of your top three most played games, so I think in your case it would be League, uh, TFT, and maybe Stardew or Persona
Stardew
5.
Valley.
Yeah. Well, which one would it be?
So I thought about this beforehand.
Uh huh.
I think it's League of Legends. If it's like zapped from existence, I think that would kill TFT. But if it's just like vanishing, then I'm okay because I'm never gonna play League of Legends again. I apologize to all the League of Legends fans and everyone who plays League of Legends. I will miss watching esports. I think watching competitive league is really fun. The storylines going in, but that's what I would pick.
Yeah, I'd probably get rid of. Funny enough, I love how high the discrepancies are between your top three games and like my top three games in terms of hour play. Because all
Yeah,
my top three are in 1K plus, but I tend to like sticking to one game
yeah.
uh,
I
or
think
one
TFT will get
genre.
there for me. TFT will get there for me.
That makes sense. I'd probably get rid of MapleStory because MapleStory is probably the one I play the least right now, anyways. And also, besides that, I think uh, you know they ruined it before they brought it back because they made it pay to win, but then they ended up releasing the reboot server, which a lot of people like hopped back on the hype train of, which is why I think like MapleStory hasn't died as a company, or I mean Nexon technically, or whoever's running it
Yeah.
now. But why MapleStory as a game hasn't died in the West? I know in Korea it's still pretty popular, um, but honestly, yeah, like it just I play private servers now, like like it doesn't, and yeah, so I would get rid of MapleStory.
Okay. Now for a quick, but probably the most challenging segment that we have out of all our segments, we have a hot seat.
Okay.
So the way this hot seat will go is we will pick a game at random from our five most played games for each of us.
Uh-huh.
And the way this goes is you have 30 seconds to pitch the chosen game, the randomly chosen game out of your most played list to a millionaire. If they like the game, they will give you $1 million. How do you convince a millionaire to play this game? Jay, you are going first. I'm gonna have a timer. I'm gonna
Ooh.
go. I'm gonna set up the timer right now,
Okay, just let me know. I'm
and then I
ready.
will tell you the game, and
Oh,
then
oh,
I'm gonna.
you're choosing the game for me. Okay.
Yeah, I'm choosing at random. Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
God.
So um, you don't get to know the game. I'm gonna as soon as I tell you the name, I'm gonna
Okay.
hit start on the timer. Are you ready?
Okay.
It's Terraria. Go.
Oh my God, this is so easy. Okay, have you ever played Minecraft? Well, it's just better than that. And if you haven't played Minecraft, imagine a world uh, that you can just ease into. The scenery is beautiful. You can upgrade your character. Progression is very simple. It's easy to get into. You can play with anybody, young kids,
10 seconds.
your friends. Also the developers are still working on it, so there's still updates. There's a modding community. There's just so much content.
And time.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think? Would you invest?
As a millionaire, you had me at you can play with your young friends. That's what stuck out to me. I guess I'm gonna go play with my millionaire young friends.
Well, by young friends, I meant like
Here's
I meant
my
like
$1 million
kids. No, I meant
dollars.
like kids. Like you can play with your son or daughter or niece or
It's too
nephew.
late. The millionaire has like
Oh
left the
my
elevator.
God, I'm
They're
reporting
questioning
him,
this
bro.
guy. They're questioning this guy, telling him to play
Uh,
games with his young friends. So I
yeah.
do. I have mine set up. So do you have a timer ready, Jay?
Uh, yeah, I can get that timer real quick, real quick. All right, I got a timer ready.
Okay, I
So,
have a wheel open. I'm gonna run it, and I'll read the name that it says, and then you can start the timer.
okay, perfect.
I feel like your act will be a tough one to follow, but let's see what I get. I'll say the name, and then it goes.
Okay.
Spinning, and it's Stardew Valley. Okay, as a millionaire, you are spending your life grinding. You wake up at 4 a.m., you take the coldest shower of your life. Life is so hard. You're working yourself to the bone, typing in this computer. We're all, I'm sure you're a knowledge worker in this day and age as a millionaire, but what if you could settle down and have a
10
very
seconds left.
serene life on a farm? and make millions of dollars on your farm, but it's chill.
And time. Uh, you know, you really beat me down before you buttered me up, uh, telling me that my life's hard and I take
Hey,
cold
that don't
showers.
don't tell me that that didn't resonate with you.
No, 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 totally
You take a
resonated
step
with
back
me.
and you're like, hey, I do take cold showers. I do have that
I
level.
actually hate cold showers, but um, you know, I wouldn't. I feel like it depends on what kind of millionaire you are, but I wouldn't play because I don't even want to live on a farm. I don't want to work on a farm. And if I was a millionaire, I'd just go buy a farm and go work on it in real life.
That's too hard. You don't want to break your bones anymore. You're sick of breaking your bones. That's why you want
Yeah,
to chill and live a serene life on a virtual farm.
you're right. You're right. You're right. How could I be so
Okay.
foolish?
All right. Well, that was our hot seat. And to round things out, let's go read some listener responses. Do you want to read the question of the last episode, Jay?
Yeah. The question of last episode was, what game genre would you zap out of existence if you had to pick one? Um, I'll start us off with
Sure.
Ryan saying FPSs. That's a pretty contentious thing, but all right. First person shooters because they are hard and give gamers a bad name. Okay.
I think this
Okay.
question definitely caused people to draw lines with blood.
Yeah, they really
We
did.
got some very pretty violent responses between each other. We had Nick saying visual novels. If visual novels are gone, that kills the Persona series, which is very
Uh-oh.
sad to me. But if visual novels never existed, that's what would happen. So those are gone. And so the next one we have from Kevin, which is RTS and Sims getting zapped high key. Flight Sim, Goat Sim, Truck Sim, Farm Sim, all smoked. RTS is dying is pretty big because if they
Yeah.
never existed, that means no Warcraft 3, which is an RTS, no Dota mod for Warcraft 3, which means no League of Legends, which means no TFT. So that kind of made my reality I said earlier come to life. Pretty big for RTSs to disappear, and no Sims.
That's pretty
That kills
wild.
like all the simulators and just kills like Sims itself, which is a pretty
Does that
low
kill Stardew
key.
Valley?
Probably does, yeah.
Uh,
Kind of low key kills Sims, which brings in a lot of money and is secretly a very like high user base part of like the game industry.
dude, I remember. I don't know if you remember, but do you remember Facebook games where you
A
could
little
play
bit,
like the farming one?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you could like share like gold with your friend. I remember playing that, but um, we have Teddy with MMOs, no comment. I'm not sure what MMOs did to you, my friend, but I hope it's all better now.
Very violent. I think the critically acclaimed MMO Final Fantasy 14 has a very fervent fan base right now,
Yeah,
and Teddy is killing a lot by getting rid of MMOs.
yeah. Uh,
Maddie said bye bye fighting games, and this was also a really big one, which means besides fighting games, no Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers would not have been made, and no FGC, no fighting game community, which means no huge tournaments, no big part of esports.
Nice. And then, well, that'd be tragic, not nice. And then Captain Squirrel would zap FPSs, guns are whack, cracked out point, and click adventure. Interesting. You never like clicker. I feel like it's such a nice, you know, like mind numbing click number go up. It's like a fun, hour, 2 hour game.
Captain Squirrel says no. Zap
That's,
FPSs.
that makes sense. And then our question of the episode is, what are your most played games?
Let us know your response on Twitter at SKGPod, or if you're listening on YouTube, leave a comment in the video and let us know your thoughts.
I'm Jay,
And I'm Justin.
and thanks for listening to Some Kind of Game. Bye.
Bye bye.